um, you know, it's possible God said it because they're adults. You know what I mean? But there's a high possibility because they do got false prophets out there. I ain't gonna lie, a lot of false prophets. But like, for example, let's say like Jesus' mom, she can be anywhere from the age of 14 to 16. To be honest, a lot of people say, "Oh, wait a minute, they're promoting pedophilia." No, in the old days, man, it would have been rare for you to just survive. If you were 55 years old back in that day, that's like being 100, like 20.
Ooh.
You know, you see, things were different because the mindset. I'm not saying God permits pedophilia. No, He hates that junk. But in the old days, like, it was common for a woman. Because see, in Hebrew, when you turn 13, you're considered a man or a woman. You see what I mean? For us, um, Spanish people, 15. You know, that's the old days. That's the old days. But see, things were different because see, you had to mature quicker. Life was shorter back then. Life expectancy, it wasn't like the way we have it now, 75, 80, 90. No, back then, so you'd be lucky if you live in your 50s or even get to your 60s. So that's why, like with the Spanish people, they had age 15 as manhood or womanhood. For the Hebrew people, it was 13. So I wouldn't have been surprised if Jesus' mom was like 14, 16. She was obviously young. But the thing is, times was different. They weren't like the way most 14-year-olds are, 15-year-olds, 16-year-olds. Yeah, because you had to go and survive. You see what I mean? You had to. They started like I have my grandmother from my dad's side. She had to drop out of school at second grade or third grade. I can't remember. She had no choice though because they were so poor. She had, in order for her to eat and her mom, and her dad to eat and stuff, she had to work on the farms and stuff like that. You see what I mean? So she had to go and do. She grew up early, so she ended up getting married probably, I think, what was 15 years old or something like that. Times were different. Um, I had a relative. She's dead now. She died when I was like 8 or 9 years old. This is our side of the family here. She she lived to 108. She probably could have lived longer, but she fell down some steps and died. Yeah, she could have lived longer. I'm pretty sure. Because if you seen her, I remember she she um she was real short but real beautiful long hair. But she was 108 years old at that time. Last time I seen her, but she looked young for her age and stuff like that. Even though she was in the hundreds, she probably looked like she was probably 60 tops. You know what I mean?
Mm.
She was good looking. You know, and she was still walking, no canes, none of that. She walked like, yeah. But God bless her. It says, I can't remember the exact verse, but it talks about the age God gave an age limit to people. But if you live over that age limit, that's because you're living by God's grace, by His blessing. I can't remember the exact age, but I think it was 65. If you live over there, or 75, I can't remember. But that's because of His blessing. When we enter Jesus' millennium reign, when He rules for 1,000 years, when somebody dies 100 years old, they're going to be considered a kid. So it's in the book of Revelations. You can read that. You know what I mean? When we enter that, things are going to live as long as trees. People, excuse me, not things. We're talking people like things. Human beings will live as long as trees. But if you're 100 years old and you die, you'd be considered accursed. You see what I mean? Because that's considered young. During that time frame. You see what I mean? Depending on the season, the age that we're living in, because everything comes to an end, everything comes to a beginning. The cycle. Things are different. So, yes, ma'am.
Sorry,
Oh,
that's
that's
one
fine.
question. So in the
Millennium reign,
millennium
1,000-year
reign,
reign. Yep.
when someone dies, where would their soul go?
Their soul go, depending on their relationship with the Lord. Because see, the great throne, the great white throne judgment haven't happened yet. That happens
Right.
after the 1,000 years. That's when the Father judges all things and destroys,
Right.
in the lake of fire what's not.
So like in the meantime, like what?
In the meantime, it goes either or. It goes with the Lord, because if you're dead during that 1,000-year reign, we already know where you're going, hellfire. So, because it says if you live 100 years, that's considered young. You're considered cursed.
Right.
Not to
Okay.
be young. You see what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because see, they would have been living forever if. Because see, you guys know about the rapture. I'll speak to for you guys who are new. when the rapture happens, people who are following Jesus right now, let's say it happens exactly right now, we get raptured. Those who are following Jesus right now, not saying it with their tongue, who actually live it, constantly seeking God's Son, you're going to be taken up there. We get immortal bodies. Those people who follow Jesus now, when they die, their souls are going to be up in the sky with King Jesus, because King Jesus is going to be in a white cloud. Their souls get the brand new body first. And then we, in a blink of an eye, this all happens in 1 second, less than 1 second, excuse me. Then we who are still alive get called up into the air, into the clouds of glory, with Jesus and the saints that died before us, with our new bodies, our immortal bodies. And so, we go to heaven for 7 years. And then we'll come back to rule for 1,000 years to help Jesus bring things in order, because after the 1,000-year reign, he's going to give back all things to the Father. So there's going to be some people, though, who survive the tribulation. You see what I mean? They're not going to have the immortal body like we're going to have during that time. I'm assuming everybody's saved here. You see what I mean? If you're not saved, I really recommend it, you give your heart to Jesus. Or if you're struggling with it, talk it out. Talk it out with, a brother or sister in Christ, maybe the pastor, and try to work through those issues and have a relationship with Jesus. But during that time, we're going to help people get to the knowledge of God. Jesus spoke about the parables. He gave 1 talent to one servant, 5 talents to another, 10 talents to the other. It's funny that currency is called talent. We all have talents. We all have gifts. He wants us to multiply those gifts. You see what I mean? And so depending on what we do with what he gave us, those gifts that he gave us, those blessings, to be a blessing to other people's lives, then we're going to be ruling X amount of cities, depending on the gifts he gave us. So that guy who turned that 5 into, let's say, I don't know, like 25, he'll get 25 cities, you know what I mean? He turned that $10 bill into, 10 million, whatever. So he'll get 10 cities or whatever, things of that sort. But that one guy, he didn't make that 1 talent, he didn't even put it in the bank for interest. He didn't get nothing. So what was blessed upon him would get taken away and given on to another. You ever hear that the wicked gather up riches only for it to be given to the righteous? It's going to be all taken away to them one day. One day it will. It's going to be given on to us. So when we rule, we're having all that,
Would this apply to not answering the call?
And that applies to answer the call too. Because that guy who had the 1 talent, he didn't answer the call. He's like, well, I know you're a hard master, so that's why I just dug it and put it away until you return. So he was being lazy the whole time, aka lukewarm. Remember the 10 virgins? 5 were foolish, who didn't have oil in their lamps, and the other 5 were wise. They had oil in their lamps, aka the Holy Spirit. So they always had the light on to look for the face of the groom to come back. You see what I mean? But the other ones, they fell asleep and they didn't get oil. They ask other people for oil. You ever get that? Other people, they think they can go to heaven by riding on your back. They think you can save them. You ever get that? That's being a foolish virgin. You see what I mean? Foolish virgins, they ain't going to get raptured. They're going to get left behind. Because what happened when the 5 virgins who had the lamp were there and he came in the midnight hour? The 5 foolish virgins crying, knocking on the door. Let me in, let me in. He's away with you. I don't know you. And all of a sudden weeping and wailing. Because guess what? They got to go through the tribulation era, So don't be like that, If there's a chance to follow Christ now, I recommend following him now. Don't be a fool to follow him when the Antichrist rules. Because guess what? Our government's still closed down. You know why? Because they're trying to destroy our dollar. If our currency is destroyed, we're going to need a new currency which the world can rely on. So we're going to need a one world currency. If we got one world currency, that's going to lead to a one world government. Because everybody's going to be so desperate because they love money so much. They want their cars, the material things and stuff. That's why people's losing their houses. They got into loans that they knew they couldn't afford to pay, but they got it anyway because they want to live with the Joneses, keep up with everybody else. Well, they got the cars, they got the houses. I need to get that. They knew they couldn't afford it. They lived beyond their means because everybody's chasing after these riches. So when the Antichrist comes, he's going to come with this new currency and all this junk like that. Everybody's going to be like, yeah. my debt's already erased. He's gonna help me get work. You know, he's gonna help make things better and stuff like that, supposedly better. Because people love their material things, they love their money. So of course they're gonna love this guy because they don't want to give up the riches of this world. So that's why they're gonna be on his, you know, on his jockstrap, you know, to be honest. But that's the way it is. But you have a choice, guys. Either you can live with him now, live by the 10 basic morals, which all morals come from, you know, what we call the 10 commandments in here, which Jesus literally fulfilled. You know, you guys see that all the time. You see where it says, where the pastor's preaching, you got the Ark of the Covenant. That was all foreshadowed. In the Ark of the Covenant, they had the manna, the jar of manna, the bread. They had the staff of Aaron, which budded. That represents leadership and resurrection. And the 10 Commandments were in there. That represents the law, right? The moral. Jesus said he came to fulfill the law. We read that earlier, right? And he did fulfill it, literally. And guess what? He resurrected from the dead. And guess what? He's the leader, right? He's our king. The staff of Aaron. You see that? A dead staff? Oh, he has a staff here. That's something that's dead. But life budded, resurrection, leadership. And then, who's the bread of life? Anybody know who's the bread of life?
Jesus.
Yes. The manna. God put it in there to foreshadow what was going to happen. Why does the Ark of the Covenant has 2 eagles? Anybody want to answer that? Why? When Jesus was laid on the slab, when the 2 Marys, Mary Magdalene and Jesus' mom, came into the tomb, there was an angel here and there was an angel there. You guys get it? It's fine if you don't get it, just let me know. You gentlemen get it? You know that picture up there where they got the 2 eagles on top of this box thing? That's called the Ark of the Covenant. In the Ark of the Covenant, they had the manna that was from heaven. Jesus said he's the manna, he's the bread of life. They also had this staff of Aaron that represents leadership, but this staff budded a new life. That's a dead stick. But that staff budded life. That represents resurrection as well. And also they had the 10 Commandments in there. Jesus fulfilled all that. That Ark of the Covenant, it literally shows Yahweh's redemption plan on how he's going to save mankind. And we've seen it physically manifested in Jesus. You see what I mean? So when we read things in the Old Testament, you're like, yo, why they do things like that? Why they got these, why they did, the priest sprinkled 7 times on the Ark of the Covenant, blood 7 times. Guess what? Guess how many times Jesus' blood shed? 7 times. You see what I mean? Everything comes together. Why did God tell the Hebrew priest to do this, do that? Because guess what? Because Jesus was literally going to fulfill it. That's why he's our high priest. You see what I mean? He really fulfilled everything. What God commanded these Hebrews and the priests in the Old Testament, it was a foreshadow on God's plan to redeem. Because guess how many candlesticks are in the menorah? You ever seen that? What the Jewish people had? They had candlesticks. 7. How many churches that Jesus speaks to in the book of Revelation? 7. You see what I mean? So what does the candlesticks do? When it gets dark, when the power comes on, what people usually put on? Not just the flashlight, but candles. You see what I mean? 7 candles. 7 candlesticks were in the Holy of Holies. You couldn't see in there. So it lit up the Holy of Holies. That's where the throne room is at. So, like, everything connects. You see what I mean? But we'll get into that more. But we got to close up with prayer. And then debating more. Well, is that the only thing you guys are debating?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah. All right. But we're going to go with prayer. But guys, I just want to remind you guys, too. I'm going to tell you what happened today. I seen the demon that helps, that influences people to kidnap, molest, rape. I seen it today get defeated for this region, So you'll see probably in the news next couple of weeks or maybe next month, like people getting exposed from like raping people, kidnapping, molestation and stuff. You'll see it, trust me. I literally seen the demon. It was done with. The Lord, we give him thanks for his mercy for defeating the enemy. concerning that. I've been praying about that because you guys seen September and October, a lot of people have been getting kidnapped. They're getting kidnapped for the sake of human sacrifice, and using as sex slaves too, because people who worship demons, they believe in the more innocent the blood, or the more baby-like it is, the more power they get from that demon they worship. So that's why you see in the news all the time, September and October, like, why everybody's getting kidnapped? You see what I mean? It's because of that. People don't know. So, because October 31st, the 30th and the 31st are days they're going to do it. We're going to have to do it. Maybe, God willing, we'll probably discuss more about this Halloween stuff. But we're going to pray. Sister Hannah, if you can lead prayer today, please.